full transparency, I only found this guy and only found this video because of Hunter Evelyn. Thanks, Hunter. Love you. I'm stealing content from you. Let's go. And I watched the very beginning of Hunter's video, and I listened to like the first couple minutes of this video, and then I quickly turned it off because I was like, oh my god, I have like so many thoughts on this that are like super important to me, because I have been really thinking a lot lately with this past move and my whole life in general about what God is and my general philosophy about life in the universe. And I think to have a Christian talk so adamantly about their beliefs in such a way that is so backwards is so baffling to me that I wanted to talk about it. Because this guy, Daily Disciple, who I'm going to show in a second, whilst talking about Jordan Peterson, says a lot of things about life in the universe and beauty specifically in the beginning that I think are centuries old, outdated. And what's sad is a lot of people still follow his kind of logic and rhetoric. But let's go ahead and pull it up. This is the video. You can go ahead and watch it here. Jordan Peterson's mic drop versus atheist Matt Dillahunty. Now, I'm not an atheist. I'm kind of agnostic, maybe. I don't know. I have different ideas of what God might be. I think the most Westerners wouldn't necessarily agree with. And I think that this video, it's something. First of all, it's Jordan Peterson. If you know anything about Jordan Peterson, he's fallen off lately. It's kind of a weird time to make a video about Jordan Peterson. Kind of a weird time. I don't think this is coming from the Daily Wire Plus. So does this guy sub to him, or is this just on YouTube? I don't know. Either way, let's go ahead and watch.
Jordan Peterson has no doubt become one of the most influential figures in our culture today.
Do you believe in God?
I don't think that's anybody's business. I think it's the most private question you can ask someone. But then I would say also, what's the right response to that? By their fruits you will know them.
As a Christian, I think it's really, really exciting to see God drawing Jordan Peterson closer and closer to himself. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 mic drop moments that he had in an impromptu debate versus prominent atheist Matt Dillahunty. Before we jump in, be sure to subscribe to this channel because I'm putting out new videos.
No.
Community of the
No.
Years I had this thing go.
Shit. I went too far. Okay, let's watch the debate. This is the important part. You know, we want to watch Jordan Peterson, and I want you to pay close attention to what Daily Disciple says here and how he reacts to a particular thing. You'll see.
But I'm trying to. For years, I had this thing going where people would say, "Oh," and this is kind of what we're getting at from a different angle. I would say they would be afraid of what we would lose if we lost religion, and I basically said, "Demonstrate to me any benefit."
Oh, you'd lose art and poetry and drama and narrative and story.
Are there no godless artists and poets?
There are artists and poets who think they're godless.
Oh, dang.
this like oh, fucking mind blown. Like, is this the mic drop moment? That's not even a good comeback. That's barely even a sentence, and this dude's like, yeah, bro. Not important. That's just funny and a silly reaction to have, but that's not the important part. What's important are his upcoming comments.
We might have crossed over into a problem area because
no doubt.
There are artists and poets that think they're godless. What could he possibly mean by this?
I don't
To
know.
understand this, and it took me a while too, we need to understand the idea of a presupposition. Now, we all presuppose things about our world, and we demonstrate we do this by the way we live our lives and the way we conduct ourselves. I have a presupposition that this chair that I'm sitting on will hold me, and therefore I sit on it. If I didn't have that presupposition, well, I wouldn't be sitting on it right now. So the fact that I am sitting on it demonstrates that I believe not only is the chair here, but it is strong enough to hold me. Now, an aspect of...
So is his argument going to be like, you presuppose God, or like you presuppose art is beauty, and beauty is defined by God, therefore there is a God? Is that his argument? Is that what his logic's going to be? I'm ready for it.
What Jordan Peterson is saying here, and it can even go deeper than this, but this is just layer one, is that artists, storytellers, poets, they all make a presupposition about the world. The beauty exists, like real objective beauty. Think about it. An atheist has no way to account for beauty. If we're just star stuff, primordial ooze, chemical reactions in meat bags, then there's no more significance that a sunset has, and no more beauty than a sunset has, than a pile of trash.
Okay. This is the particular comment that I remember from Hunter's video that set me off. There is no beauty in an atheistic worldview. This is beyond silly. This is beyond silly. You don't need a God to define beauty for you. You don't need that, right? And then he goes on to say that there is no beauty in an atheistic worldview beautiful difference between a sunset and a pile of trash. If we are all just stardust and we're all just chemical reactions, then there's no way to meaningfully define beauty differently. Yes, kind of. He's like this close to the point. It's mind-blowing to me because in my personal belief, the fact that we are all just stardust, the fact that everything in the universe is connected is beautiful. That in of itself is beautiful. You see, there's really two main ideas of the universe. One is that the universe was created by a god of some sort that created and sculpted the world however he or she or they liked it. And there's the other that is just random happens chance science, right? You have accident and then you have a crafted creation. And one of these feels good in the heart. This makes sense, right? You feel good about it, right? But once you start listening to the scientific evidence, it becomes very clear to you that this isn't exactly true and that it's not even provable. So this one starts to feel silly after a while. But once you get rid of this, what have you got? All you have here is just, yeah, I'm an accident born in space. That's all I am. I am the end result of billions of years of random happen chance of cosmic rays floating and bumping into each other, exploding and making cool little molecules. And these are both outdated and really wrong ways to look at the universe. These are both severely outdated. You see, the universe, at least to me, is not just accidental, and you are not the end result of anything. You are just as much the world as it is you. And what I mean by that is that the only thing separating you from or me, I guess, from this microphone right here is, I guess, molecules in the air, sure, but the number of protons and neutrons within our contents that make us up physically, right? At the end of the day, what am I? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. All of this. What is this microphone made of? Protons, neutrons, and electrons. The exact same thing. Everything. Your car, this microphone, the trees outside, the tiniest worm in the dirt, everything is made up of the same fundamental substances. The only thing that changes is how much of those pieces are put together. And to the idea that you are just the end result of everything, these all big accidental movements, these randomized inputs, I simply do not think that's true. You are never an end result. You are never going to be the end result. You are as much of a part of that input and that movement as something was 10,000 years ago, or even millions and millions of years ago. You are, at the end of the day, you are the asteroid that slammed into the earth and killed the dinosaurs. You are the dinosaurs. You are all the different rocks and things that came up together to form our planet. Fundamentally, that's everything you are. You are stardust. You are created and grow from stardust. That's what you are. It's a really beautiful thing to think about to me. That in of itself is beauty. So when I think about, well, what is beautiful to me? And beauty is subjective. He's an idiot. Beauty is not objective in any way, okay? Beauty changes all throughout culture, all throughout time. Like back in maybe the 50s and 60s, really, really, really skinny women, at least maybe in white culture, I don't know much about black culture at that time, were considered beautiful. This was the model standard was being thin as ever, being skinny as a rail. That was beauty, right? But now today we see beauty in many different ways. There's a lot of beauty around being curvy, around at least for women, and same for men too. Men have been kind of just the same for a long time in terms of beauty. We kind of wear suits, short hair, that kind of thing. But even then, men have longer hair. Back in the 60s, there was a big revolution of men having longer hair and more self-expression. These things change culturally. They change through time, right? The big deal. Like back in the 80s, a lot of hair metal bands existed that had long, crazy hair, not quite as popular anymore. These things change, and what is considered cool and what is hip and what is beautiful is going to change, right? So when I look at a sunset, out here on the beach or something or whatever, that is beautiful to me. And in a way, I could look at a piece of trash on the ground and be like, that's beautiful in its own way. you have to look at it. It's all about perspective. How do you view something? How are you looking at it, and what is the story behind that trash? Whose trash is that? Why is it there? What led it to that point? And what objects were these things before they were trash? Sure, it was a cardboard, but what was the tree it grew from? What was the tree that tree came from? Where was it at? What was the land around it like? Who lived there? What lived there? There are so many questions that can be provoked from a simple piece of trash that to say it's not beautiful objectively is silly. And to say that you can't find beauty without a God is beyond silly. Like I said earlier, this is such a silly comment, but he's got more to say. So I'll let him speak more. So I apologize.
I can't draw for crap, although I do draw during the show. But one of the individuals who came to the show the other night handed me something that she had spent a great deal of time drawing. She's a wonderful artist. I'm very grateful to get it. And, while I pretend to read minds on stage, I constantly acknowledge that I can't actually read minds. So I can't tell you whether or not she actually believes in a God, but I can tell you that I actually don't believe in a God, and I could write
But you act
poetry.
like you do.
Huh?
But you act like you do.
Now, I got to be completely
But you
honest
act
here.
like you do?
Dr. Peterson is doing better apologetics than 80% of modern-day apologists that I see. And the reason being is he's not getting caught up in the weeds of historical data and archaeology and different theories. He's getting to the heart of it. He says, you act like there is a God. Why is that? You act like there is a God, and yet you say there is no God.
Where in these clips so far, Mr. Daily Disciple, from this Jordan Peterson debate, does Matt Dillahunty demonstrate any kind of acting like there's a God? And the fundamental problem with the comment that Jordan Peterson just made is that he's again presupposing that there is a God. Because in order to believe that Matt Dillahunty thinks there or acts like there is a God, you have to presuppose that God exists. You have to, right? Because nobody who doesn't necessarily believe in God would go, oh yeah, he's acting like he believes in God. Jordan Peterson definitely believes in God to some capacity, 100%. That nothing of what was said demonstrates any belief in God. Nothing. What an absurd fucking thing to say. Jesus. Why is my spacebar not working?
There is a keen disconnect here, and we need to get to the heart of it, because that testifies to what the Bible says in Romans 1. We know there is a God, and yet we suppress that truth in our unrighteousness. And so what Dr. Peterson is exposing here is that there is a disconnect, that we say one thing and yet we act another way because we are in rebellion against God.
What was you okay, so this is a problem I have with a lot of right-wing and I guess now Christian media figures or social media creators, where they do this fucking thing, and lefties do this too a little bit, but we're focusing on one for now, where they do this thing where they make a fucking claim about something. They make a prescriptive statement about somebody or something that they're doing, and they say it as if it's fact, but then they don't demonstrate it in any meaningful way. That's what this is. We're watching it happen live. Like, what a weird thing to say. Okay, so this is literally just supposing that this guy actually believes in God without even realizing it, which you're not explaining how that's the case. This Daily Disciple is not explaining how that is the case, and he probably won't. He probably will not explain. Instead of saying, well, hey, I think that this guy actually does believe in God, and here's how he is showing that. He's just going to talk about it and then kind of dance around the point and then move on. Wow.
Now, what's interesting to me is that atheists will often vie for different social causes. They'll be very pro-abortion or very pro-LGBTQ or, whatever else. They're very morally focused and just. They want justice. But in their worldview, there's no such thing as objective justice or morality. It's just, man, we're just a bunch of animals out here trying to figure out things, and nobody really knows what is right and what is wrong. So who are you to say that there is an injustice going on? What is justice in a world where we have no intrinsic value or worth? What are human rights in a world where it is just survival of the fittest? You understand the complete emptiness of the atheistic worldview.
Okay, so here's okay. That was a lot, and I want to focus in on a couple of things. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot of nonsense. Okay, so you could have morals without God. Okay, contrary to popular belief, atheists do have moral compasses, and you would say, oh, well, they all stem from God. Here's my problem with that. Not every society in the world believes in the same God, right? Okay, Islam and Muslims' idea of God, well, technically it is the same God. Many Christians and Muslims would disagree with that, right? They would not say, fuck no, that ain't my God. Or maybe they would, I don't know. Their idea of morality is far different than Christians. Far different, right? And even South American, maybe like Aztecs, had very different views of morals than Christians do today. Even Christians 200 years ago had different moral views than Christians today. Morality is not objective. It cannot be objective. There is this weird thing that kind of came out of the Enlightenment, which is generally good, where we took the Christian principles of law and justice and morals, right? The world has to make sense. There is law. There are certain laws of gravity. There are laws of motion. There are laws of physics. We took the Christian idea of a creator who then creates laws and enforces it onto the people of the universe. We took that idea and applied it to the empty void of space and nothingness. We took those ideas and smushed it onto there. And that's ultimately kind of why science is not a good way to make up your morals. Because of course not. Okay, no atheist out there is getting their morals from, like, science. No. Where do atheistic people get most of their morals? From interpersonal relationships. Here's a question you can ask yourself to determine whether something is moral or not without putting God in there. Okay? And this does not have to presuppose God in any way. This might be a fucking mind-blowing thing to someone like Daily Disciple here. But here, this is all you need, okay? This is a simple question. Does this action cause harm to my fellow human? And even that, from a scientific standpoint, makes more fucking sense than from a God standpoint. Right? Because from a scientific standpoint, evolutionary, there is a incentive to not harm and to not hurt my fellow man. There is an incentive right there to keep the species going. There's an incentive right there, okay? From a God perspective, you would not do these things because you are afraid of what God will do to you, okay? Or because God told you to. I would argue that even from the scientific perspective, this is far more moral. And the question is, does it cause harm? And if the answer is yes, then that thing is probably bad in most cases. But even then, because morality is not objective, we add on caveats to these things constantly. God allowed for slavery, unless, caveat, it was from your own tribe. This is with the Jews after they fled Egypt. These are not moral by today's standards. And even today, we allow killing of people if it's morally justified. Self-defense. Well, what if someone's trying to stab me? Can I stab them to defend myself? Yes. Yes, you can. And we have laws that work around that. So in an atheistic worldview, which is a secular worldview, okay, not atheistic, which is ultimately what the American justice system is trying its best to do, is to create law without presupposing a God. And I think we do a pretty good job at it. We go to a jury of our peers, meaning other people, to determine whether or not somebody is guilty of a crime. And this is like simple textbook, like, does it cause harm? Yeah. Why would that be? Why would causing harm to another human be bad if you don't have a God? Because hurting other people damages the chances of our species continuing. And you might say, well, yeah, but there's so many people now. It's like 2,000 years ago. Do you think that was any different? Like 2,000 years ago, back when you're like, Jesus Christ died. Do you think there were less people on Earth? Because I fucking do. I think there were a lot less people on Earth 2,000 years ago. So back then, there was especially a case for not harming your fellow man for secular reasons. You don't need God to do that. The problem is that back in those times, we did not have the scientific tools to determine the universe around us or to observe the universe around us as well as we can today. We did not have those tools, okay? We did not have a microscope. We did not have the telescope to see far into space. We had what was here right in front of us in the now. We could not see beyond humanity, beyond the earth. We could not see it. Maybe the moon, maybe some stars. We had no idea what the fuck that was. People had no idea what the fuck stars were up until probably the 1800s, if I can remember correctly. Like, people had no clue. Okay, so God was the easiest explanation for most people. Well, look at all of this. Look how all of it's created. It has to be God. There has to be. The same way that I would build a house, I would build shelter. Somebody must have built this world for me. That's the simplest understanding that any human can come to, like logically, right? That's the easiest thing to understand. It's because I do it, therefore somebody must have done it for me. Believing in God satisfies humans' want or need to be loved and to be protected and to be cared for. That's what it is, right? Humans, as we grow up, we are taught to be independent. We move out of our house, we move out into the world, and we go out into this big, big, scary planet where a lot of things could kill us, right? And without God, what do you have out there to protect you? What do you have out there in the wild to protect you if your fellow man is out to kill you? You have nothing, depending on your worldview, right? So it's a very easy thing to then say, well, God cares about me. And if God cares about me, then I have a purpose to keep going. And this is outdated. Nobody believes this anymore. Nobody thinks like this anymore. I'm sorry. A lot of people have moved away from this thought because it's not quite as popular anymore. It doesn't quite make sense. It doesn't do enough for us. Why do we need to do better under an atheistic worldview? To benefit other humans. Christians might do better for other humans for the sake of their little spot in heaven. Because ultimately, that's a selfish belief. For their spot in heaven. Or to get other people into heaven, which, hey, that's a little better, I guess. But they don't actually believe the things they're talking about. I think if Christians really believe the things that they talked about, they would be screaming from the rooftops, oh my God, we need to really, really, really repent. You people are all going to burn in hell. But they don't believe that. They don't. They don't actually believe that. I don't think they do. Anyway, sorry. Gotta keep going.
That's why you didn't
I
want to throw
act
poor
like-
Sam off the stage.
No, now you're making a claim. Okay, so I'm telling you I don't believe there's a God. And
Yeah.
your response to that is, I really do, because I have a moral sense. But my moral sense is utterly without any appeal to a God,
Explicitly.
or implicitly.
Maybe.
The f-
That's not so obvious.
Okay, it's really
See,
it's
because
easy.
you regard Sam Harris as an implicitly valuable entity. Because otherwise you'd just throw him off the stage. And then the question is, well, just exactly why is he an implicitly valuable entity?
I don't
What's your
think he's-
metaphysics of that?
I don't think he's implicitly valuable in the sense, I don't think he's implicitly valuable in the sense that the universe has implied that there's something explicit about it. I think
Okay.
you can have a perfectly acceptable foundation for secular morality,
Hold on.
even if it.
Did the video just cut, but did he not cut? Hold on. Wait, what?
A perfectly acceptable.
Hold on.
Entity.
I don't
What's your
think he's-
metaphysics?
Hold on.
I don't think he's implicitly
Whoa.
valuable in the sense, I don't think he's implicitly valuable in the sense that the universe has implied that there's something explicit about it. I think
Okay.
you can have a
The video over here just cut, but his video didn't. So is he like watching like a? He's watching like a clip. He's watching like a clips video right now of this debate. He's like whatever he's watching has a part intentionally cut out of it. They intentionally cut out his response. What is this?
perfectly acceptable foundation for secular morality, even if it fundamentally centers around selfishness. I'd rather not be thrown off the stage. It's in my best interest to encourage that sort of understanding in others, and therefore I will not throw him off the stage. I would rather not have my stuff stolen, and it's in my best interest to encourage others not to do that, so I will not steal stuff, and I will work with others to ensure that the people who steal stuff are punished.
Now, to give you context to what they're saying here, because
That's
it's
reasonable.
quite a long chat, they were talking about prominent atheist Sam Harris, and they were joking about throwing him off the stage and whether they would do that or not. And Matt says, you know, he wouldn't do that. And Dr. Peterson, he's saying, okay, why wouldn't you do that, right? Why wouldn't you do that? If we're just all stardust, chemical reactions, If there is no true objective morality, then what's to say that it wouldn't be convenient for you to do whatever you want with anyone in particular? Now,
Because that causes harm to other people. God.
I'm just going to let you guys know this is very, very unusual. In my conversations with atheists, they will ultimately succumb to the idea that say, okay, you know what, I do believe that people are valuable, but I just don't know why. Or there is intrinsic worth and dignity, but I just don't know why. I don't have a foundation for it quite. And they will.
Here's one. You guys ready for this? So here is your intrinsic value of humans without presupposing God. Okay? This is a big one. You ready for it? Humans are valuable because we've determined ourselves to be valuable. That's it. That's literally it. If he asked me, well, you think that humans are valuable. Why is that? Because we've determined ourselves to be. Well, what is it about us that makes us valuable? We determined that. Whatever it is, different time periods, all throughout human history, we determine what is valuable. Right? That's why money exists. We said that this little paper is representative of, the value of 2 soda bottles. I don't know why I went to soda bottles. Or a loaf of bread or 2, right? And then, 10 years ago, it might have been worth 4 loaves of bread. Inflation's a bitch. You know how things go. We not intrinsically, we make up things. It's arbitrary. And we applied that to ourselves. And this is, from a secular point of view, perfectly fucking logical. It is the goal of any species ever to ensure that its species continues and goes on, right? So the way you do that is by doing things that allows you, a member of that species, to stay in the good graces of the tribe. To be out in the cold and out in the wild is to die. Wolves do this. Primates do it. A lot of fucking creatures do this. Like, it's everywhere. It's a common sense thing among the animal kingdom. If you want to survive, and a lot of species, you need to be with your tribe, with your people. That's what you do. So the question of, why don't you just throw the guy off the stage? Why don't you just, murder everybody you see in the street? It might benefit you, so why not do it? Is because it doesn't benefit you, and it harms others. It does not benefit the species as a whole to kill other people for your satisfaction. And your satisfaction may actually get you into a bigger problem where you are kicked out of society. That's why prison exists. We do this. We kick people out of society. What do you think outlaws were? Outlaws were literally outside of the confines of the law, and that the protections of law did not apply to them. You could stab, kill, rob, rape, butt hurt, I don't know, it doesn't matter, anything to an outlaw. You could do it, you wouldn't have any criminal punishment for it. There's no criminal punishment. So humans understand that being out of the tribe means death. That is a atheistic worldview, right? This does not presuppose God in any way. There you go. That's the answer to the question. You're welcome, sir.
Take from the Christian worldview. But Matt here, he goes a different direction. He says, you know what? I don't think Sam Harris is implicitly valuable. I don't think he has intrinsic worth. No, it's just because I am selfish and I don't want to be thrown off a stage, so therefore I will...
No, that's not what Matt said. Matt said he could take a secular worldview that is entirely selfish. He didn't say that this was his own personal view. He said that you could make this argument even if you were selfish. Right? You could form this argument without God from a purely selfish point of view. He's daily disciple. You're misquoting him. Stop it.
Not throw someone else off the stage. And obviously here there are great gaps to this morality too, because it begs the questions to say, okay, well, hey, you want to encourage this type of behavior, but what about behaviors that go unknown? Obviously this is something, quite obvious and out in the open, so you wouldn't want somebody to pay it back towards you. But stealing something, what if nobody knows? Okay, well, what's the harm in that?
What is the... Gee, guy, I don't know. What's the harm in stealing something if nobody notices it's gone? What do you mean? So if I own a store and somebody comes in and steals my product and I don't notice them do it, and then over time this keeps happening, I'm going to go, well, hold on a minute. I'm buying all these things from these realtors. They're coming and putting them on my stores so I can then sell them, and I'm not getting as much back. But I'm seeing that inventory numbers, there's still stuff missing, but I haven't made that many sales. My business is now hurting, which means that I am now at a risk of not putting food on my table, paying my fucking bills. What do you mean there's no harm in it? What?
It leads you into a place of hopelessness. And I hope if you're watching this, if you've taken this atheistic mentality on and you're trying to be consistent with it, I would encourage you to rid yourself of it, because it's empty. There's nothing there for you. You know that's not true. You know that we have meaning. You know that we have worth.
Okay, so this guy, do you remember the beginning of the video when I said that there are two outdated models of the world? One of them is the Christian model, and one of them is the atheistic, everything's an accident model, right? I didn't go too deep into my personal philosophy. There is another video that I've made that you can watch on my channel about my personal philosophy of the universe. It goes much more in depth than what I've talked about here today. I encourage everybody to go watch that. But here's the thing. I feel like this dude's gigacoping. I feel like this dude is either gigacoping or he's fully not capable of seeing that there is more than just two options. To this guy, the world is either you believe in God or you are hopeless. And this is simply not the case. It's simply not the case. There are tons of people out there who do not believe in God and live great lives, live happy lives, fulfilled lives. Plenty of people who don't believe in the Christian God and live very good and long lives. You don't need God to have these things in your life. I don't believe in God. And anecdotally, if he was speaking to someone like me, who I guess you could call me on the side of the atheists, right? I know that I'm not hopeless. I know that I have meaning. I don't need God to tell me that. I have my fellow man to tell me that. I can look at the universe itself and look at everything around me and know that the meaning of it is not a question to be solved. And that's true. Fundamentally, life and the meaning of it is not a question to be solved, but it is a journey to be experienced. So if you're asking yourself, what's the meaning of all this? Why am I here? Why as a Christian, as an atheist, why am I here on this earth? Stop. You're working in the wrong direction. And I genuinely believe this from the bottom of my heart. You are not meant to know the answer to that question. Why? Because it doesn't exist. There is no answer to that question. You're not going to find it. You're looking for something that is not there. Correction, you're looking for something that is right here. It's in you. It's everywhere. You are the reason for life. Everything. You are everything. You can watch my video about it, but quite literally, like I said earlier, with the stardust and atoms and protons and electrons and neutrons, whatever, there is no difference between you and everything else in the universe. You are not separate from anything else. There is no such thing as separate things. Does not exist. Does not. Everything is connected somehow. Even space is connected by gravity.
We will all be accountable before God for our sin. We all have a conscience. We know when we've done wrong. This testifies to the fact that there is right and wrong. There is an objective morality. And the Bible says that it's appointed man once to die. We'll all die, but then we'll face judgment. The question is, will you be ready? And the Bible further says that even if you've kept the whole law, all of God's commandments, and yet you've stumbled at one point, you're guilty of all of it. That is an extremely high standard that we all fall short of, and because of our sin against God, we stand guilty before Him, deserving of eternity in hell. God has graciously given you a path out of the punishment that you rightly deserve, and He did.
Yeah, see, okay, this is the thing. Remember how earlier I said this is only just benefits Him? The only people who would go, yes, are other Christians. Any atheist listening to this would go, what the fuck do you mean? You mean that if I stole a pencil from a fellow student in third grade, that's the equivalent of a person raping somebody else? Or killing somebody else? What do you mean? How does that make any fucking sense? If you're trying to convince somebody to be a Christian, dude, you're doing a horrible fucking job. This would have turned me the fuck off 10 years ago when I was still believing in this shit.
Did that through Himself, through Jesus coming to this earth, fully God and fully man, without sin, to live the sinless life that we couldn't live, and to die on the cross the death we deserve to die for our sins against God. We rebelled at Him. We ignored His existence. We lived our own lives because we wanted to, and we ignored the Creator.
Okay. You get the point. You get the point. Listen, you don't need God to live a happy, fulfilled life. You don't. Okay? The concept of God is outdated. and you should move on from it. I think that people who believe in God are terrified of the alternative. That's most people, right? Because in their eyes, if you got rid of God, you got rid of yourself. What do you have at that point? You're an accident. You're a fluke. You're a mistake. But you're not. You're not a mistake. You're not a fluke. You are the universe. In every single sense of the word, you're it. You're everything. And that's really beautiful to me. See, now we're drawing back to the beginning of the video. Haha! Anyway, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. This has been a fun one. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe, hit the like button. If you don't believe in God, cool, proud of you. Got past that point. If you do believe in God, I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend you, but I think your religion's a little outdated. Anyway, we'll go back to making normal political content later. I do not want to talk about Israel and Palestine. Oh my God, I don't even know where to begin with that shit. Oh my God.